Alright, so this is my blueprint walkthrough. I'm going to try to get through this as fast as possible. I have a lot to go through, and I'm definitely not going to be able to cover it under 5 minutes, but I'm going to try my best. So, starting out here in the Jetpack section, because it is probably my most complicated, probably my second most complicated, but the most important. So, what you have here, starting out here, I have my E key, where it sets the movement mode to flying when it's pressed and held, and when it's released, it sets the movement mode of the character back to walking. I have these thruster effects that either activate or deactivate, depending on when the key is held or not. Right over here, I have a timer, which its purpose is to keep iterating through this little bit right here as long as the E key is held. So, and I also have the clear and invalidate by handle to clear the timer when the E key is released. So anyway, right through here, I have my float variables here. I got current fuel, which is set to 0, depletion rate, which is set to 1. I have them added together and set to create a new value. And that's just going to keep iterating as long as the button is held. So you hold down E, it's going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. I have a conditional statement here where as long as the current fuel value is greater than or if the current fuel is greater than or equal to 100, then it's going to go through this line of code where it sets the movement mode back to walking, turns off the particle effects, clears the timer, and then death. So that's what happens. This is how the character overheats. Then I have like my function through here, which activates the explode particle effect, sets a collision, simulates the ragdoll effect, creates an overheat death screen, adds it to viewport, then sets the input mode. Oh, whoops. Down here, this is the functionality for when the E key is released. So when the E key is released, it cools down the jetpack when it's not in use. So I'm using this with another timer. Clears and invalidates handle. I have 2 of these because I have to. So as long I have a conditional statement here, so as long as the current fuel is greater than the max fuel, which is set to 100, then what it's going to do is it's going to subtract the current fuel from the regen rate, which is the exact same value as like depletion rate, so I could have just, but it does that, so it subtracts the 1 from the current value of the current fuel and then sets it. And yeah, that's basically it for the jetpack. Moving on to my other keys. I have, on my tab key, I have a toggle for my inventory, which, excuse me, I'm using to call from my inventory component. Next, I got my sprint functionality, which I have 2 functions here. So going into this, like when I start the sprint, it activates a particle effect for smoke, like going behind the character when it activates. And then I have a sprint speed, which sets to the max walk speed, which sets the new walk speed for the character to 1,000. And then for stop sprint, it's basically the same, except for it sets it back to 600 and deactivates the smoke. Restarts level on R key. I just have an execute console command here. Pick up item on Q key. Okay, so right here I have an interaction interface to grab an item as long as it can fit into the inventory array. So I have my interact right here, which is just an interaction interface. Whoops. And it can interact with items as long as there's items that can be interacted with. So there's that. I have some miscellaneous things here. I had to add a new input for upward movement. Adds the overheat HUD to screen, and this creates a windscreen. Here's where my timer functionality is. So I use an event tick, which I know is not very efficient, but because it uses a lot of processing power, but it works for this level. It works for now. I'm going to try to fix it later on. So as the event tick is going, it runs through a series of branches where if the seconds is equal to 0, then it's going to run through this statement. But if it's false, it's going to get these seconds, and it's going to subtract 1, and it's going to keep doing that because of the event tick. But when it's down to 0, what it's going to do is, I apologize, it should be here. What it's going to do is it's going to run through this branch where if the minutes is set to 0, then it runs this way. But if false, it's going to decrement the minutes by 1 and then set the seconds back to 59. Then right here I have a simple check which stops the death screen from printing because it's still attached to the event tick. So it's only going to print once. Then I have my death screen, and then sets ragdoll and sets the input node. So that's it for my inventory. Let's see. Next up, I have my inventory component here. So here I have 4 override functions. Yeah, so I have 4 override functions, and starting out here, I have the prepare inventory, which builds the inventory on start, creates item, and then I have create item, which creates an item that can be put in the array. Then I have add to inventory, which adds the item to the array. I have a toggle inventory here, which which builds a inventory window if the tab key is pressed, and sets all these for the window, and then you can interact with it. And then if you press the tab key again, it removes the inventory window, and it unpauses the game. I also have, let's see, here are the items I use. So this is a parent class for my items, which I thought I was going to have a lot more, but I only have 1, but it was nice to have in case I wanted to add more items. Here's my coolant, which is when you use it, it subtracts the current fuel from the, excuse me, it subtracts this number from the current fuel, clamps the float, sets it, and returns. Okay. Next up is the overheat HUD, which I'll go over briefly. So this is where, like these values, these are like the changing ones. So for the timer, it's actually fairly simple. So what I did was I got a character reference to the third-person character. I got the seconds values from the timer, converted it to text, and then I binded it to the seconds right here. And that works for the minutes too. So if you want to use that, that's how you do it. As for the progress bar, right here I got my character reference, of course, and then I have my current divided by my max fuel, and that'll give you a value between 0 and 1, which is used for the progress bar because it can only accept any value between 0 and 1. Finally, the last thing, I got my splines here. So right here, as long as the player character is overlapping with the trigger box, it moves the platform, and if he leaves, it reverses it. But it plays this timeline where the platform moves along a spline, and then it sets the location and rotation values on where the spline is, and then it sets the yeah, it gets them and then sets them right here. And yeah, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Sorry this was so long.